I'm just shocked that I've been there for 10 years, and then other times I still feel like a newbie. So Synergy Services is all about ending violence in the family. So we do tons of community outreach, education, and mental health counseling, but we walk that talk with 3 emergency shelters. One is for domestic violence victims and their children. One is for homeless teenagers or teenagers in some sort of a crisis. And then our third is for, we call them our littles. It's for young children who've been, I always say it this way so I don't ruin your whole night. They've been taken out of unfortunate circumstances. They're going to come and stay with us. We had a little boy who came into Synergy after being found in his mom's attic. He was 7 years old, and when he was found, he weighed 23 pounds. The first time he came into Synergy, he was terrified of everything. The people, the furniture, the air in the room, terrified of everything. The last time I saw this kid, and this actually took a couple years, he walked up to our executive director, high-fived her, and said, "What's up, turkey butt?" So we may have brought that kid back a little bit too far, but that is exactly what we do at Synergy. We have figured out that as humans, we have this tremendous capacity for resilience. We can bounce back from just about anything as long as we have the appropriate resources. And that's what we feel we are, the appropriate resources. So we started in 1971. So if you do math really quickly in your head, this is our 50th year. We started as Synergy House in a little house up on the hill on the Park University campus. We still have that house through the generosity of Park University. That house and where I office at the Meyer Counseling Center. I've heard that we give Park $1 a year, $20, whatever. They've basically given us 2 buildings to operate out of. Great community partners. So since we've been around for 50 years, I cannot tell you the number of times that I'm speaking to a room full of grown-ups, and someone will walk up to me after I'm done and they will say, "You guys saved my life when I was in high school. Had it not been for you, I wouldn't have had a place to live. I don't know what I would have done. I definitely wouldn't have finished school." So I always try to get a name. Do you remember anyone you worked with? Because we so rarely hear those happy endings just through HIPAA and because we live in a somewhat transient society. And then I'm emailing the next day, "Guess who I ran into? Guess where they are now?" And people do come back and help us. Our printing actually right now is being taken care of by a woman whose mom chose the boyfriend over her and kicked her out at 16 years old. And she came and stayed with us. She now owns a printing company, and to give back, she does all of our printing at no charge. So I know I love those happy endings, those happy stories. There are sadly right now 2,000 kids in Kansas City who at this minute have no idea where they're going to sleep tonight. So it's tragic. I can't believe we're willing to write off a whole generation of young kids. We added the domestic violence component in the 80s. So when we started with homeless teenagers in 71, I'm not sure anyone knew what a homeless teenager was or that there was such a thing. I think in the 80s, people did know domestic violence was going on, but we certainly didn't talk about it. When I started at Synergy 10 years ago, the statistics of a woman being a victim at some point in her life, 1 out of every 3, 1 out of every 4. It is now 10 years later, we are going in the wrong direction. It is 1 out of every 3. I'm hoping that is due to, we don't have to keep it a secret anymore. You know, it's just not, we're not blaming the victim anymore. We actually are having more women reaching out for help. And I will say, just to clarify, we've come so far as women. Yes, we can be abusers, but the preponderance of the abusers are men and the preponderance of the victims are women. So there are a total of 400 shelter beds for domestic violence victims in the whole city, and that includes the shelter in Harrisonville. So we had a mom who called one time reaching out with 5 children. This means she needs 6 beds. No one ever has 6 beds at the same time. But when women reach out to us, we call it a lethality assessment. We're trying to determine how much danger they're in. Well, after doing hers, we knew if we didn't do something horrible was going to happen to either her and or her children. We used to have a downstairs playroom for the younger children in shelter and an upstairs playroom for the older children. In a matter of hours, we had converted that downstairs playroom into a 6-bed family room, thinking when this woman is able to go on with her life, move out of shelter, we will have our play. Yeah, no, we will never have a downstairs playroom again. That will always be an additional 6 beds. One of our therapists, who's much smarter than I am, said, if we would view domestic violence as a disease, we would then realize that we're in the middle of an epidemic. So it's just, yeah, what can I say? We had one family who was in that 6-bed family room for quite a while. This was a very special circumstance. She was there with her children for almost a year. She tried to go back. It didn't work out, as it usually doesn't. Came back in, and her little, probably 6 or 7-year-old boy came running into the 6-bed family room and said, "We're home." So needless to say, all of the Synergy employees were tearing up and like, oh my gosh. But to be able to provide that for a family in that situation is just the most wonderful thing we do. So we also have a children's center at Pratt Farm. Most of the horrible stories you read about in the Star, especially those involving children, are going to end up being touched by Synergy in some way. We had a little boy who came in. I need practice telling this story because they asked me to tell this story at the end of our golf tournament, and I made myself cry. And it's okay if I make you guys cry. It is not okay if I make myself cry. So let me practice this. I'm going to try to get through this. We had a little boy who came into the children's center, maybe 8, 9 years old, who there's a Southern expression that kind of goes, whatever you're putting down, I'm not picking up. He just wouldn't have anything to do with any of us. Just leave me alone, give me my space, go away. And so that's what we did, because that's how we deal with them sometimes. A couple days later, another little boy, same age, came in. This kid was visibly frightened. The first little boy who walked up to the new little boy and said, "Don't be afraid, they like kids here." Is that just like a ringing endorsement for what we do? I love it. We will sometimes get children who are so traumatized, they won't talk at all. And that's when we rely on our dog therapists. Yes, we have dog therapists. We also have, one of the saddest things we do is our Children's Advocacy Center. Children who have experienced severe physical or sexual abuse will come into the Advocacy Center and we will tape their interview. We have trained forensic interviews. Now, there's a myth going around that because we do that, they don't have to go to court, but no, they do. We are afforded the right in our Constitution to confront our accuser, even if our accuser is 4 and we're 40. That child still has to go to court. And you know, it's terrifying to go to court as a grown-up. Can you imagine what it's like going to court as a 4-year-old and trying to tell a room full of grown-ups the horrible things that this person did to you? So we have a court dog. His name is Rasta. He's the most beautiful golden retriever you've ever seen. The funny thing is, the jury is not allowed to actually see the dog. So we have to put Rasta into the witness box before the jury is seated. And I always say, you know why? Whichever side the golden retriever is on, they win. Nobody has to say anything. It's an automatic win. So it was kind of funny. There is a Sarah Andresic Victims Advocate Award that Eric Son, the Platte County prosecutor, gives out every year. And he gave it to our dog one year. And he was telling me this, and I went, Eric, isn't that supposed to be a secret? And he goes, yes, Corky, but we didn't think the dog would be able to figure it out. So he was totally right. And that same year, one of the chambers wanted to know all of the Synergy employees who had received awards over the past year. Yeah, our dog was the only one who'd received an award that year, but it went over well with the audience. We also have tell me when I'm running over. We also have a youth resiliency center, drop-in resource center. A lot of the kids who go in there are homeless. Anyone 12 to 21 can go in and use those services for free. There is an art studio. We do a lot of art therapy there. The kids can work in just about any medium there is. I always say, unless it involves a blowtorch or molten metals. There's a potter's wheel, there's a kiln in the basement. Music studio, recording studio, I have to refer to my notes or I forget half the stuff we do there. Computer lab, we love it when we get volunteers who can come in and tutor some of these kids, because if you're homeless, you're probably behind in school. So we love it when tutors can come in and kind of get them up to speed where they need to be. Half basketball court, we do all kinds of classes there, yoga classes. Laundry, lockers, library, food. You can't do anything with teenagers unless you have food. There is a free medical and dental and vision clinic. Medical clinic is staffed by Children's Mercy. The dental and vision clinic is staffed by, it used to be Miles of Smiles, but they added the vision, so it's now Level Up Kids. That is free to the kids who come in there. They can be that kid's primary physician, their dentist. So it's amazing. Transitional living program. You age out of both our shelter and foster care at 18. So we have an 18-month program where we are trying to teach recently turned 18-year-olds how to be grown-ups over that 18 months. There is a nominal fee for that. We give that back to them when they graduate. Don't tell them this. You are all on your honor not to tell them. That's always such a surprise. Talked about the Children's Advocacy Center. Street outreach service sounds kind of creepy. We drive around in vans looking for homeless kids. Doesn't that sound creepy? But we're trying to connect them to resources. And during the winter, we always have coats, blankets, food, water. We're trying to bring them in, and sometimes they won't have any of it. Safe Place. You all have been to Quick Trip. You've seen those signs. That's us. That is a national program, but those employees are trained. If a kid comes in and says, I need some help for whatever reason, they call us. Maternity group home, teen parent support program, permanent housing, rapid rehousing for domestic violence victims. It's truly ridiculous how many different programs. We administer, I would say 30, 35 different programs out of that Youth Resiliency Center. And then we used our Clay County Children's Services funding to put about 24 therapists into schools in Clay County. School counselors are wonderful at where am I going to go to college? How am I going to get there? How do I pay for it? They're not so good at, I'm not having a very good life right now, and I've decided that maybe the world would be a better place without me in it. That's where our therapists come in. We're very focused on teen suicide right now. And I guess I can say this, we're going to go for a Pratt County Children's Services Fund soon. So we would love to have your support on that. It is a 1/4 of a penny sales tax that goes to organizations like Synergy. We are not the only one who work with abused and neglected children. All of the money that will be collected in Platte County will be used for Platte County children. It stays in the county. So it's been a very challenging time for Synergy. Needless to say, not a good time to be a not-for-profit trying to run a shelter during a pandemic. So I feel lately like we're taking 1 step forward and 10 steps back. The shelters will be COVID-free. 1 person will come in. That means we have to put everyone back into hotels, spend the thousands of dollars to decontaminate the building. It's just a very difficult time for us. So we need your support, anything you can do to help us out or anything we can do to help you out. So give me a call. Oh, and our Stand Up for Synergy is our big event that we do every year. This year it's on November 6th. Our comedian is Joel. I know. Last year we had to go virtual. We have our fingers crossed that we'll be able to do it in real life. So I will share at my executive director, when she was greeting the audience a couple of years ago, said, you know, I've always heard that it takes a village to raise a child, but looking out at my audience, and you have to understand that this is a room full of rich people, I'm thinking it might actually take a gated community. So I'm sitting there going, were you there? Did she actually say that out loud? I mean, we all think that, but none of us say it. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to me just prattle on. Did I go over? I'm sorry if I did.